So I don't want to excuse any of this, but I don't think we should also get them twisted together.
The conditions in migrant facilities at the U.S.-Mexican border right now are horrible. So to give you an example, this recent story from the Daily Beast, 500 migrant kids crammed into plastic pods meant for 32 people. And again, this is under Joe Biden. Now, recently, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez put out there's a video put out of her discussing the conditions at the border, and she is getting slammed by some on the left for apparently defending Joe Biden's border policy. So I'm going to play this quick clip for you. It was shared by The Hill, and I'll discuss it.
Now, the first thing I want to say is that the fact that this keeps happening over and over and over again is a political failure by both parties. And I want to be very clear about that, because I don't want to draw false equivalence. What is happening here is not the same as what happened during the Trump administration, where they took babies out of the arms of their mothers and deported their families and permanently traumatized these children, some of whom we don't know will ever be reunified with their family again, which is a level of human rights violation that is just simply not the same. Both of these things are barbaric and they're wrong. But when you rip a baby out of the hands of a mother, you cannot draw the same comparison. And anyone who is trying to do that is doing a profound disservice to the cause of justice. So I don't want to excuse any of this, but I don't think we should also get them twisted together, because one is not the same. And we cannot dust that under the rug. And by the way, those families are owed reparations, period.
All right. So this is the way it's posted here. I mean, you see some of the over 4,500 quote tweets. So this got quite a reaction online because most people are taking this simply out of context for, the simple fact that this clip was taken out of context. This is a minute and a half. The larger clip, so this was pulled from this Forbes discussion, 13 minutes long. The other 12 minutes of this video is AOC discussing the horrible conditions at the border under Joe Biden. The title of the video, literally, it's AOC rips Biden over barbaric conditions at the border. That's what the video is actually about. That's the 12 minutes that are not shown in that other clip. So people take it out of context, think she's putting out a singular video, a minute and a half to defend Joe Biden. That's not at all what's going on here. But then some will say, okay, well then why even make the comparison? Why even make the comparison? It makes Biden's border policy seem okay when compared to Trump when you make that comparison. This is why. You don't have to convince leftists that the situation at the border under Joe Biden for migrants is bad right now. She doesn't have to convince me. She doesn't have to convince most of you. So who is this message actually for? This is for liberals who knee-jerk want to defend Joe Biden. So when communicating with people like that, this is why she has to make that comparison. Because then it brings those liberals into her larger argument that's critical of Joe Biden. So this really is about communication. How you communicate to people who don't normally agree with you. You have to win them over with something they agree with. Hey, yes, I agree. The situation's different. I think Trump's Trump ripping kids from mothers' arms is horrible. And then, so she brings that up, but then folds that into a larger discussion about how what Joe Biden is doing is horrible. The way you win people over in arguments like this is you have to speak their language. So AOC here, again, understanding the audience for this. The audience is not the left, because the left does not have to be convinced of this. The audience are liberals defending Biden. The audience here, the terms that she is using, the way that she is describing this, the way that she brings in what happened under Trump is a way to convince liberals that what is happening under Joe Biden is something worth paying attention to and bad. You don't do that by just going out there guns blazing and just shitting on Joe Biden, without actually giving any context or without making it at least appear like you were on the side of the people you were trying to convince. So this is all about communication. That's half of her job, at least, because when you're in a minority position the way she is, yes, as I've discussed before, the Progressive Caucus in the House has power now. They can withhold their vote on specific bills to make those bills better. They could have done that when it came to improving the COVID relief to put the wage increase back in. Ultimately, the most charitable reason why they didn't do that is because they understood the urgency to get COVID relief passed. But now, with the infrastructure bill coming up, they don't have that excuse. There is no urgency for infrastructure. I mean, there is, but not in the same way there was for the COVID relief bill. So we'll see if they are going to, put their money where their mouth is and actually use their power to withhold the vote on the infrastructure plan to improve that. It's this is a different discussion now, but 2.25 trillion over 8 years is nothing. So we'll see if they use their power there. But the other half of her job is communicating. And to be a good communicator, you have to understand your audience. You have to understand how to speak their language. You have to understand how to change their minds. And part of doing that is relating to them. And part of a way to relate to them is to bring up how terrible Trump is. You do that, and then you fold in a criticism of Joe Biden. You win more of those liberals over to your side because you took the time to actually understand how to speak to those people.